this thing back here, we call it the War Machine. It's from 1944. It's an old Army tube preamp and limiter. They used to spray these things with fungicides, like an antifungal agent, for when they were on a ship and then they'd wind up in a jungle somewhere, because I guess funguses can get into resistors or some shit. I don't know. That's some solid half science from me. In the YouTube comments, just make them real scathing if you know what you're talking about. Little background on me in this place. I started out recording in Jakarta, Indonesia, which is where I grew up. And I would take my band and other bands to little studios there and record on 4 tracks. It was real primitive and real fun. And from there, I went to college in Boston at Berklee College of Music and got a degree in production engineering. From there, I went to Studios Piccolo in Montreal. And my very first gig right out of school was an assistant vocal engineer on a Celine Dion record. So I kind of came up from a pedigree of fancy, expensive pop production, and then wound up in Austin, Texas, and making indie rock music, which is kind of what I love to do. One thing that makes me and this place a little unique is having that background of very precise production quality juxtaposed to the sort of rough around the edges sound of most independent music. I know that's kind of what I really like to do, and I really like to focus on and have a lot of fun with. The whole idea of this place was to kind of get back to making music the way people used to make music. If you think of most of the records that are classic records or things that are timeless, there's this subtle communication that happens when people make music in a room together, and they're communicating. There are no ISO booths for performers. I generally like to try and have everyone in the same room if possible and work around that. We've got baffles and whatnot and gobos, but I kind of like the feeling of people making music in a room together. So I made a great big room that sounds good, that people can feel good in and to make music in. We try and capture that to tape. I don't want anyone thinking about time, thinking about money, thinking about their headphone mix sucking, thinking about cable problems, anything like that. When you're here, you just make music and experiment and create, and there's hundreds of toys to fuck around with. I've always been aware of ADAM monitors. I've used them here and there at different studios, but not a whole lot. I was in New York recently and stopped by my buddy's studio. He and I both had the same near-field mixing monitors. And he had these S3H's in his studio. And he took me down there. He's like, all right, just listen to some stuff. And he did the thing where we listened to, music you're familiar with, your reference mixes, stuff like that. And I listened to the ones I was familiar with, and I flipped up to them, and I'm like, whoa. Okay. Honestly, I was more than the stuff that I think ADAM's known for, the detail, the high end, the depth, all that. I was just blown away by the amount of power they had and the restraint of that power. Sitting there, even listening at low volumes that I could access if I needed, but I didn't. I just kind of felt it was there. It was like driving a really great car with a great big engine in it that you just have to drive around, your neighborhood with. This is the worst analogy I've ever come up with because I've never actually done what I'm talking about here. But where if you need to, you can just dime that shit and it'll be like, cool, I got it. I got all the power you need. It's no problem. But you don't need to. And just, I don't know, this feeling of just like, even at low volumes, the low end having this size and this weight to it and this depth to it that I hadn't found in other monitors. The question of having larger monitors in a room like this is where to put them, both in terms of economy of space and in terms of what's going to sound great. With the new mounting hardware, I don't know if you can see, we've got them mounted from the ceiling up top, suspended down, and we can adjust the height of them and the angle of them pretty much instantly once they're installed. We can angle them however we want, turn them, raise them up, lower them down. And it makes it really easy to get exactly what you need in terms of stereo field while not needing, for example, them to be floor standing. So it's practical and ergonomic, but simultaneously it's really, really great for the sound because they're just suspended in air in an acoustically designed mounting system that eliminates pretty much, as far as I can tell, pretty much any vibration transfer. And any vibration transfer is going to be 14 feet up in the ceiling. But the thing that kind of ties all of their speakers together is the ribbon tweeter and how focused the top end and the mid-range are. Even in less than particularly ideal listening environments, how focused the stereo image is. In these in particular, the stereo image is pretty pinpoint in a way that's really three-dimensional. And I know people talk about monitors being three-dimensional, but in these you can hear like reverb tails moving from front to back in these. I've got my space set up for me, not really for clients. So when I'm sitting at the mixed position, you know, the tweeters are hitting my ear balls. Like it's set up for me. It's not set up for the guy sitting on the couch in the back of the room. But that said, when I first installed these, the guy who was sitting on the back of the couch said, I can hear the panning from way back here. And I thought about that, and if you sit in the mixed position, it doesn't get blurry when you move around, or when I go over here to you know, adjust an EQ or a compressor or something. I can still hear a very detailed and accurate representation of my stereo field. They're really detailed in that mid-range without being too harsh, or without sort of, you get to a point, we've all had this, where you just hit the space bar and Pro Tools, like, I can't fucking listen to this for 5 more minutes, I need a break. I don't really have that with these. And until I started on this little diatribe, I hadn't realized how much I appreciate that.